Hi, I'm here with Jim and Rick, and we're going to be talking today about Hydretain. So Rick, could you tell me, what is Hydretain?
Well, Hydretain is a unique liquid product that dramatically reduces the watering requirements of plants, grasses, and trees by extracting the humidity in the soil and converting it into droplets at the root system, converting unavailable moisture to available.
Wow. How does it work?
Well, it's a patented group of hygroscopic and humectant components. Hygroscopic meaning that it's water attracting, and humectant being water holding. And in combination, these materials have the ability to extract the humidity in the soil in the form of free water molecules forming droplets on the root system, and then the droplets are then pulled in by the plant, and by doing so, we're utilizing moisture that's currently unavailable, making it available to the plant.
When watered into the soil, Hydretain is drawn toward the roots along with suspended nutrients. Where water and nutrients are drawn into the root, the complex Hydretain molecule is stopped, forming a thin, persistent film on root surfaces. Once applied, roots gain an important ally in the drought cycle. As gravity and evaporation work to remove moisture from the soil matrix, Hydretain captures and retains water vapor that comes in contact with root surfaces, forming microscopic reservoirs that will prove vital to plant survival when moisture levels drop below and out of reach of the critical root zone. Even when soil moisture is scarce, these droplets remain available to the roots and prolong healthy internal processes between irrigations, dramatically reducing or even eliminating drought stresses which lead to plant disease and mortality.
Wow, that sounds like that'll be very helpful. Well, has Hydretain been through any university studies or trials?
Hydretain has been tested by several major U.S. universities on everything from tomato production through to full-size trees.
How does it differ from other water management products?
Well, there are two major products that it's compared to. A group of products called surfactants that make, we say, water wetter. It makes water easier to go into the soil, and super absorbent polymers that actually act as reservoirs of water. Those two products, like I said, the surfactants help water enter the soil and move through the soil a lot easier. And the surfactants act as a reservoir, a sink of water where it holds it and releases it to the plant to use. Hydretain is a different technology where it attracts humidity in the air to itself and actually supplements your water through the humidity that's available in the atmosphere and the soil.
What are the benefits of Hydretain?
Well, the most obvious benefit to Hydretain is its ability to reduce overall watering, which not only saves you on your water bill, but it's also helping to conserve water, which is one of our most precious resources.
Yeah. Any other benefits?
Well, certainly. There's the economic benefits of reducing your water need because you're supplementing your water from the atmosphere and the soil. There's the benefit of a better turf and plants around your yard, your potted plants, because they're not drying out as much when you get into between periods of rain or irrigation, or when you get into the drought period of the season. All those, the Hydretain really helps it survive and look its best throughout these difficult periods.
So I'll show up my neighbors with my green lawn and my wonderful garden.
And we'll get those compliments.
Yeah.
And people will come back and say, what are you doing to your yard? I want to do the same thing.
Everybody wants to have a better yard than their neighbors, right? A greener grass and...
Exactly, and there's some side benefits too. Hydretain is going to minimize your drought stress cycles, so your plants are going to be less susceptible to disease and pest. And it's also going to help with the nutrient uptake in the soil by keeping the nutrients more solubilized so that they can more easily be taken up by the plant.
And I do know that droughts have been quite an issue across the country, this year in particular.
Well, in Florida, where we're from, we're in droughts every year, and we've been under water restrictions in some places of the state almost all year round.
Wow. So we've talked about my lawn. What about commercial uses for Hydretain?
Well, Hydretain has been used on top golf courses and major sports fields throughout the United States for the past several years, and it is now available for home use. So the major application for homeowners, they're thinking of their lawns, but it's just as applicable for their flowers, their vegetable gardens, and even their potted plants.
So my lawn was recently seeded. Is it okay to use on seeded lawns, or does it have to be on established lawns only?
Well, actually, seeding is one of our bigger applications. We've been doing overseeding of golf courses for years. Commercially, we also work with major hydroseeders, a lot of the roadway construction, and one of the real advantages for seed germination is Hydretain's ability to keep a nominal amount of moisture against the seed coating, helping it to develop faster or start to grow faster, and you usually see a faster germination and a better stand.
Now, my neighbor has had a major problem with brown patches on his lawn, and it doesn't seem that there's anything he can do about it. Would Hydretain help him in that regard?
Jim?
If the brown patches were caused by drought conditions, drying out and all, yes, it would help it dramatically. It doesn't do anything to correct dead grass, but if you get it out before the drought situations occur, it'll keep your lawn from going to that condition. So it is a really great product for preventing drought conditions and death.
And we have had a very dry summer, so I'll have to tell my neighbor all about it.
Another area we've seen a lot of use in the commercial side are things like farmers.
Oh.
Tomatoes, cotton, a number of various crops have done very well, both in establishing the crop as well as maintain the crop through its growing cycle to help increase yields. So it has a tremendous application throughout all green industry.
Well, other commercial applications are lawn care and pest control companies who have added as part of their services, their regular services for homeowners, as well as for commercial properties. And then we also have a lot of interior scape companies who use it to treat potted plants and indoor plants, especially during the winter when the heating systems are drying out the air.
Wow, it sounds like this product has a lot of uses in a lot of different areas.
It's not only for summer use, it can be used year-round.
Great. So for interior landscapes and poinsettias during Christmas time.
Well, perfect. You don't want your poinsettias in a church wilting during the middle of service.
Right, and who's going to remember to water them?
Yeah.
So, the product sounds amazing. If I want to use it on my lawn, in my garden, how do I apply Hydretain?
Okay. Well, for home lawns, you simply attach the Hydretain bottle to your garden hose and spray it out. It will automatically dilute the product for you, and a quart bottle will cover about 3,500 square feet of yard.
Wow.
It will do approximately 1,000 square feet of flower and vegetable gardens. If you're looking to apply it to individual plants, then you dilute it at a rate of 2 ounces per gallon of water and then drench the plant completely. So that's the way you would treat your potted plants and household plants.
Okay, so indoors or outdoors?
Correct.
Well, that sounds really easy. Well, how does that differ when you want to apply it commercially? So, say for a golf course or a sports field.
Well, golf courses have a number of ways of applying it, but the most common way is through what's called a boom sprayer. A big tank with a boom with little sprayer nozzles.
Oh, okay.
And they fill the tank with water, put the Hydretain in it at a certain rate, and they go out and spray over their greens or fairways or tees or other areas. Same way with sports fields. So that's the most common way on sports and golf is through what's called a boom sprayer. But there are other ways too. They can put it in a backpack sprayer and go spot spray certain areas, or even a commercial hose and sprayer that hooks up to a hose, just like the homeowner's version, and spray it out and it meters it out. In the farm situation, it's a little bit different. They have different ways of applying liquids. The boom sprayer is certainly one of the ways, but most commonly they want to target it in the furrow at planting and otherwise. So they'll, at planting, put it in with other liquids underneath the seed and then apply it through drip irrigation or something like that more directly around the plant.
That sounds really easy.
It is. It's just getting your calculations right and dilution factors, and then watering it in is important, especially on turf grass.
Another way that many of the professionals are applying it is through fertigation, where it's injected into the irrigation stream. So when they water, they're applying Hydretain at the same time.
Okay, so you can put it directly into the system.
Correct.
Excellent.
Then you can cover your entire property with one application on a regular basis. It's very effective.
That sounds very convenient, too.
One of the most critical factors in putting Hydretain down is making sure that it's watered in. You're spraying it on topically for your lawns or for flower and vegetable gardens, but it has to be watered in so that it gets down to where the root system is.
And what do you mean by watered in?
That means that after you apply it, you're going to turn your sprinkler system on and you're going to apply anywhere from a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of water across that entire area so that you're forcing the Hydretain down through the soil down to where your massive roots are. Then once it gets around the massive roots, it's drawn up against the tiny root hairs. As the plant's drawing water and nutrients, it's carrying the Hydretain with it. So it's really critical that it be watered in right away as opposed to leaving it up on top where it might start attaching to either the leaf tissue or the thatch layer. It's not going to have a negative effect there, but it's not going to have the positive effect that you're going to get by getting it down to the roots where it needs to be.
So it's very important to make sure it's watered once you put it on.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Now, how would an application rate differ for, say, a homeowner using Hydretain and a commercial user, such as on a golf course or sports field?
In the commercial setting, the Hydretain is applied at a rate of 9 ounces per thousand, which is equal to 3 gallons per acre. That's normally in a boom sprayer put out with roughly 40 gallons of water to 80 gallons of water per acre. They spray it out and water it in. In the farm setting, it's a little bit different. It can be anywhere from 1 gallon to the acre to 2 gallons the acre, depending on whether it's laid underneath the seed or injected or applied on an existing crop.
Now, when do you apply Hydretain? Is there a particular season or time that's better?
Well, generally the best time to apply Hydretain is before you've gone into a drought situation. It's better used proactively than reactively, but keep in mind that most of our customers come to us reactively. They're already into a drought stress situation,
Right.
and in that time frame it'll work as well. But if you use it beforehand, you do get generally better results. Now, in Florida, where we're from, the application is done all year round. So there could be 4 applications of the product during the year for a home lawn. Up in the northern states, it may be shortened to 2 applications, picking it up in the late spring after the rainfall and carrying you through the summer and into the fall.
Okay, so in the colder climates, maybe once in the spring and once in the fall?
Once in the spring, once in the late summer.
Okay.
And we even have people now, we've got some evidence from Iowa that even a late application, such as a late October, November, will help protect turf from winter desiccation.
Wow.
And that's when you have a non-snowfall year, but you have a very cold and drying out winds, and the turf will dry out and it'll kill the turf.
Right.
And we've had golf courses that have been using this product experience no death in the turf from those drying winds after a late application. So we're now talking about it as a winter protective as well.
Is there anything else I should know about when and how to apply Hydretain?
No, go ahead, Jim.
It typically is a 90-day product in a program. So once you start, about every 90 days you reapply it at the recommended rates at 9 ounces per thousand, or even in potted plants at the 2 ounces per gallon of water drenched in. So it's a 90-day product. There are situations where there are extremes that you can apply it more frequently.
Most of our golf courses have gone to a monthly application after the initial full application. They'll go to once a month applying it at a 1/3 rate. And the reason they're doing this is that they're under more stress than the average home lawn, and they're constantly building new roots. So by having new material, we're attaching to the new roots. Many of our lawn care companies do a regular application with their customers once every 2 months or once every 6 weeks. So after the full application, then they will adjust each subsequent application to be, say, if they're doing every 2 months, they'll use a 2/3 rate. So they're not using more material, they're just applying it more often, and they will see an even higher result from the product by doing that.
Okay.
Which makes it nice. It's a nice flexible product. It can fit into almost any user's program. So it doesn't have to be married to a certain program that we give. As long as the product gets out at a certain amount, the application frequencies can vary and fit into his program for convenience.
Now, would it be hard for me to use as a consumer if I'm going to try to do it myself on my own lawn?
Well, no, because all you're going to have to do is hook it up to the garden hose and spray it down. It's an easy application. Just make sure that you've watered it in correctly. And generally, most homeowners that are using our product themselves are going out at about once every 3 months. Now, if you get into a severe drought, keep in mind this product is working mechanically. So having more there, it's going to go longer between watering cycles. So more can be better, but it's not necessarily where you need to start with it.
Okay. So we already talked about established lawns, but for instance, my brother has just built a new house and he's just seeding his lawn. Is the application process different for Hydretain?
The process is a little bit different. With new seed that you're keeping on the top surface, you want to spray the Hydretain on the top surface and water it in only lightly. You want it to stay in contact with the seed itself so that it helps the seed to germinate. Also, for if he's sodding his lawn, he can actually put it down before he puts the sod down and put it right on top, or he can put the sod down and then spray Hydretain on top of the sod. Either way works just as well.
What about a sports field that is putting in a new lawn?
Well, with sports fields, when they're putting in seed, they'll just merely spray it right across the top. They'll water in lightly, just the same as a homeowner. For sod, they're going to do just as I explained. They're going to go ahead and generally put the sod down first and then spray it on top.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like an insurance program, particularly for commercial installers. If they want to seed or sod and rely on the homeowner or property owner to do the watering, it doesn't always occur, and sometimes they have to guarantee that job. And the Hydretain is that insurance policy that will make sure that sod or seed takes off and gets a good establishment, even under the most difficult situations that may not be optimum for seed growth. It'll help ensure that they don't have those callbacks.
I know we're all very busy and it's hard to remember to water.
Well, we've been overseeding or using Hydretain with overseeding of golf courses for years. And golf courses are pretty efficient in trying to water at the right time. One of the problems they do have is that they do have play during the middle of the day, and they can't always turn their irrigation system on. So one of the advantages they've seen with Hydretain is that the seed that germinates 3 o'clock in the afternoon, hot sunny day, that seed may burn out if they can't water it. And Hydretain has helped carry it through a full day without having to be watered. The other real advantage they've seen with it is the number of seeds that germinate are generally higher. So they are able, in many cases, to cut back on the amount of seed they have to use, and they can spread that seed across larger areas of the golf course.
Wow, I'll bet they'll be glad to hear about that. What about trees and shrubs? I'm interested in planting some new ones in my lawn this fall. Could I use Hydretain for that?
Certainly. We've had lots of experience with trees and shrubs as well as planting ornamentals. Most people will drench the root ball with about 2 ounces of product mixed in with the water, and you drench that entire root ball, and if you can, even the soil area around it, so that that whole area is wet and then it attaches to the roots. We've had a customer in Minnesota do that, and they did every other tree down a boulevard, and in a very dry year, the trees that were treated with the Hydretain made a much different response. They survived and they looked good, while the others that weren't really didn't do well in the heat of the summer.
Wow.
One of the real advantages when you're dealing with new installations is generally you go to the store and you buy a plant that's healthy. Or if it's a landscaper who's putting plants in the ground, they're getting good, healthy plants. And generally, the work they're doing is correct to establish the plant, but if they do end up dying, we find that most cases it's because somebody didn't water properly. So by adding Hydretain, it's just a good insurance policy to get that plant to establish itself and allow its root system to move out so that it can begin to grow on its own. So installation of ornamental plants, shrubs, and trees has been a big part of Hydretain use.
Yeah.
And one of the ways the commercial guys do it is, rather than trying to soak each individual plant, they'll make a solution of product and dip a whole tray of annuals or into it and then plant out from there. That's a little bit faster, and they've found that has been effective too.
That's great. Okay, so say I have Hydretain on my lawn. Do I need to cut back on the amount that I water it?
Well, the idea with Hydretain is that you want to make sure that you have plenty of moisture in the soil for it to work with. So generally, it's better to not reduce the amount of water that you're applying at one time, but stretch that out as many days as possible. If you're watering every day, you generally will be able to go to every other day. If you're watering every other day, you'll go to every 4th day. So you are able to cut your water usage in half but you have to water heavily enough to make sure that there's moisture in the soil for Hydretain to work with.
So say I follow all your directions. How long will it be before I see results?
Well, with Hydretain, from the first time that you put it down, if you have, say, an isolated dry spot, something that shows up every other day, and the rest of the yard still looks good, that's a good place to test it. You spray it down on that area, and you should see results either right away or within the first 2 waterings. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the Hydretain to be drawn up against the roots before you begin to see results.
Okay.
But in most cases, you're going to see results within the first to second watering after doing the application.
So say I've applied Hydretain and then we get a very heavy rainfall. Is there a possibility that Hydretain would hold too much water?
No, not really. Hydretain doesn't hold water. It's not like the polymers we talked about earlier. But it actually doesn't work until you get air into the soil. All the free water has to drain out before it does its job. It's only grabbing humidity out of the air and creating little droplets around the roots. So it's not going to be holding water and keeping a soil wet too long. It's only going to work after that free water is drained out of the soil.
And what about if you get a heavy rain, would the Hydretain wash out of the soil or wash away? Do I need to be worried about that?
Only in a situation of first applying it. If you apply it right away and you get a rainfall that's so heavy that it washes it down below the root system, you're not going to see any results from that. But if you get heavy rainfalls after you've applied it and it's had a chance to be drawn up against the tiny root hairs, it pretty much is holding in place. And we refer to one of our early projects done in Florida on a golf course where the superintendent applied the product in June. In July, he had 2 heavy rainfalls back to back, and he saw the results stay all the way up through September. So he got his full 3 months, and it didn't wash through the soil. And in Florida, his area is very sandy. You would have thought that it would have washed through if it's going to in any type of soil.
Okay.
When watered into the soil, Hydretain is drawn toward the roots along with suspended nutrients. Where water and nutrients are drawn into the root, the complex Hydretain molecule is stopped, forming a thin, persistent film on root surfaces. Once applied, roots gain an important ally in the drought cycle. As gravity and evaporation work to remove moisture from the soil matrix, Hydretain captures and retains water vapor that comes in contact with root surfaces, forming microscopic reservoirs that will prove vital to plant survival when moisture levels drop below and out of reach of the critical root zone. Even when soil moisture is scarce, these droplets remain available to the roots and prolong healthy internal processes between irrigations, dramatically reducing or even eliminating drought stresses which lead to plant disease and mortality.
I have a question that's important to a lot of people nowadays. Is Hydretain environmentally friendly?
Yes, it's not only environmentally friendly in its makeup. It is made primarily with food-grade materials, and there are no hazardous ingredients. It's also environmentally friendly in its function, in its ability to generally reduce overall watering. It's also safe to use around children, pets, and even food-producing agriculture.
Does it have any type of organic certification?
No, although Hydretain is primarily made with natural derivatives from plant materials, most of which are organic, it does not have an organic certification.
Are there any type of negative side effects for using Hydretain?
No, there really isn't. If used according to directions, it's perfectly safe. We've had a couple reports where if it's sprayed directly on flowers, it may dehydrate the flowers a little bit and they'll drop off. But otherwise, no, it's a very safe product to use.
Is Hydretain compatible with fertilizers and pesticides that I might use with my lawn?
Yes, as a matter of fact, not only is it compatible with those, with fertilizer and pesticides, it will generally enhance their performance. By keeping the fertilizer materials more solubilized in the soil, they will be more easily taken up by the plant.
Will it replace my fertilizer?
It's not a replacement. It's not a fertilizer in its own right. It will only enhance fertilizer usage.
On the professional level, the professionals sometimes will try to mix pesticides and fertilizers in the tank with the Hydretain. And understanding how Hydretain works makes a difference whether they can use them together or not. Since Hydretain needs to get into the soil, only materials that need to get into the soil can be mixed together with Hydretain and applied. But there are certain pesticides that need to be left on the leaf so they're effective to kill bugs or diseases or something like that. And in those situations, it doesn't make sense to mix them together in the tank and spray out together.
Does Hydretain have any type of shelf life?
So far, we have not seen any negative or breakdown in shelf life. We've had the product used where it has sat in chemical barns for up to 6 years, and we know it's been used with the same results. The only thing we really recommend is that it not be in a place where it could freeze. We know that freezing may have a negative effect on the product and render it somewhat ineffective.
Now, I noticed that there were different types of Hydretain. Could you kind of go over what different types they are and what their different functions are?
There's Hydretain ES, Hydretain ES Plus, and Hydretain ES Plus 2. Hydretain ES is the original formula made as concentrated as we can make it, which was used for years by golf courses, and it does not have an additional wetting agent added to it. Golf course superintendents have wetting agents that they like using. They know how they perform, so they can go ahead and add that wetting agent with Hydretain when they're doing an application, and the wetting agent will help allow it to penetrate in better and get down to the root system faster. As we have moved into doing more and more work with land care companies, lawn maintenance companies, they don't use wetting agents the same way, and so we've added a wetting agent to Hydretain. It only takes about 10%. It's a very powerful wetting agent that allows the material to penetrate in and spread throughout the root zone much quicker. That's the ES Plus 2, or ES Plus. The ES Plus 2 has both a wetting agent added to it and a humate. And a humate material also helps amend the soil and work with root stimulation, and has been shown to be more effective in areas where there is a dense clay soil that is not as opened up, and it helps open it up so you get more moisture vapor transmission.
Okay. Now the million-dollar question. Is using Hydretain economical for me as a private consumer on my lawn?
Hydretain should be cost-effective in most any application, and many times you're going to find that it's going to reduce your watering enough to pay for itself, sometimes within the first month, and the next 2 months you're actually putting money back in your pocket. So Hydretain is actually paying you to use it.
That's great.
Plus, if you're protecting your valuable landscape plants from being lost due to drought, the cost of replacing plants, ornamentals, your annuals, your sod, can be very expensive, and since Hydretain helps protect those in drought periods, it's very valuable in that sense too.
Absolutely. I want to thank Jim and Rick for talking to us today and explaining a little bit more about Hydretain. And I want to congratulate both of you on what sounds like an amazing product. I can't wait to go out and get some for my own lawn.
Well, thank you for having us.
You're very welcome.
Now you and your family can start using it too.
Absolutely, as soon as possible.